We are rolling.
Hello, Ash.
Hi, Leila.
So you grew up middle class in Delhi, and now you're the youngest investment partner at one of the oldest and largest investment funds out of Europe.
Yep. Exciting stuff. Grew up in Delhi, definitely. If you want to describe it the way Forbes does, I was born in a slum.
Oh.
That's basically written on my Forbes 30 under 30 bio.
Okay.
But technically, yes, but not in the real sense definition of a slum. So, I mean, we are splitting hairs at this point. But born and raised in Delhi, now working out of London at Local Globe.
Amazing. How would you describe how you grew up?
I come from a very happy but very patriarchal childhood and family. My parents actively discouraged me from going into anything that's non-medical. Okay. So it is either become a doctor or become a housewife. That is basically the
great
quintessential,
options. Yeah, so fun.
The quintessential Indian careers that are given to a girl born there.
Yeah.
And then when I decided not to do medicine, because in India, I wanted to become a neurosurgeon at one point. So let me, sort of give that warning. And when I decided not to become one, because it takes 12 years to become a neurosurgeon in India, I was like, I'm not going to study that much. I can't be 30 and still in school. That's not happening. My parents were basically, they just kind of said, do whatever you want with your life, right? Because at that point in their minds, they had just given up. The one thing they asked me not to do was do engineering, basically go to an IIT.
Okay.
Because the way engineers are looked at in India are they wear those round yellow hats.
Oh, yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And they're going to sites and doing inspections and, as my father says, staying out late till 8 p.m. And not looking after the kids. So that is not a lifestyle choice for a girl. I mean, if he sees me now, I work till 10 p.m. almost every day. No. So that's the life today. But so I ended up taking economics. And I'm very close to my parents still. They are still based in Delhi. And did economics and math at undergrad, which was LSR. Did clear JE, which is the entrance exam to IIT, but ended up going to LSR instead because I wanted to do economics and math.
Amazing. Yeah, obviously you had options from the start. You were such a star.
I think honestly, for me, schooling was about learning how to learn.
Yeah.
Because it was never really about I have to make something big out of my life because, again, I was actively discouraged.
Yeah.
So anything I did was supplemental. And my love for mathematics and economics grew to a point where I wanted to find purpose and meaning within those realms, as opposed to finding a job and a salary. So I think my North Star metrics were always very different when I was growing up. So that was helpful.
Yeah. And then you got into crypto at a great time.
In my mind, it's still late. So my definition of an OG in crypto is anyone who joined before I did. Because I think everyone else is an OG. I'm not. So I entered the space in 2017 while I was working in capital markets at Citi.
Nice. And how did that come about?
So it was really interesting. I was the youngest on the floor by a decade. Wow. I hope that none of my colleagues are watching. I'm not calling you old. But I was 20 when I started, if I remember correctly. Wow. And the second youngest person on the floor of 74 people was 29. So I was extremely young and I used to do all the grunt work for the team. So my MD at the time, he looked at me and he goes, "You're young. Crypto is a fad. You must know all about it." I'm like, "I don't know anything about it. I'm just a fresh grad." So he said, "Okay, just spend some time, do a research project on Bitcoin," because this was the second Bitcoin bull run. This is August 2017, actually July, August 2017. So I ended up spending 3 months, going very deep into the crypto industry and did Bitcoin as an asset class, understood crypto, understood blockchain as a technology, and ended up writing this 113 slide deck, which still exists, I know, and is still sometimes used within Citi. And nice. That's a story for another time. But did that, and then we presented it to the head of Asia markets at Citi. And he pretty much threw it out the window. He's like, "This is too speculative, unregulated. We can't do anything with it." Yeah. And then I was heartbroken because for 3 months I was so excited about a new industry, a new platform that I had found. And all my friends and family were sick of me telling them to buy crypto. And a month later, maybe 3 weeks later, we got our Christmas bonus. And then because I was working in markets, I was asked to not invest in any of the standard asset classes. So my father, the quintessential Indian mentality, you should get like a fixed deposit going, which is basically a savings deposit. And that was a choice. Then buying property was a choice, or investing in crypto was a choice. So again, because I'm this rebellious person since I was, I think, a preteen, I decided to invest all of it in crypto because put money where your mouth is. And this was end of November 2017. I'd been investing since August, but this was a fairly substantial amount. And then, Bitcoin and Ethereum ended up performing very well. These were the two main tokens that I'd bought with that money. So
amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. I mean, it's right place, right time, honestly. I thank my MD who asked me to look into the industry in the first place. Who knows where I'd be today without that. So
nice. Where are you today?
Where am I today? Very different from any of this. Yeah. I am now a venture capitalist with Local Globe, which is one of the oldest, largest VCs in Europe at early stage. So I love doing early stage investing, pre-seed and seed. I now look at not just blockchain for all of our funds, but I also run AI infra, middleware. I look at a lot of agentic stuff. And I have also spent a lot of time and done a couple of deals in hardware. So very different from everything that I came across with crypto. But at the same time, I think the learning how to learn thing really manifested itself. Yeah. Because I learned how to learn about blockchain, which is a new technology. I learned how to start my own trading firm, which I did on the side after Citi. And then on top of it, I basically learned how to look at new industries and verticals with fresh eyes and be like a very top-down thinker as to how I can find meaningful opportunities to create businesses out of that. So I think that is how now my brain is trained. So anything new and interesting that comes about, I'm very fascinated by that. Like one of my angel investments is in space tech. Okay. An industry I have no relationship with. I've never done anything to do with space. I think the only thing I'm related to with space is the fact that I own a very tiny gift shop telescope. Cute. That's basically all I have interacted with space about. But I ended up angeling and that company is doing very well. So yeah, I think for me, it's all about the top-down first principle thinking now. Nice. And what are those first principles that you look at? Just my fundamental rule of life is ask the question why 5 times. Okay. Look at any industry and ask yourself why. If there's a new pitch or a founder that's pitching to you and saying something that you don't understand at all, ask the why. Like, why is it needed? Why are you building this? Why are you the right person to build this? Why would this succeed? Why is this a venture scale opportunity? And why you think that this is something that will be on the right side of history and will change the world in a meaningful way, right? Like just ask 5 or 6 layer questions on why. And I think it just helps me at least come to a point where I have enough information to get to a decision. I think a lot of it also has to do with gut feeling. Yeah. And there's a story, I'm happy to share that as well. But one of my interview questions was with my managing partner's father when I was joining my fund, and he asked me why I want to be a VC. And it's a question I had never prepared for before. It's horrifying, yes, that I was interviewing for a VC role, but I'd never thought that I'd be asked this question. Like I usually have like, oh, these are the 3-4 things I would say, like this is why. Yeah. And it was just in that moment I ended up sharing this thing which I had kind of felt 5-6 years ago. It was a feeling. It was not anything to do with this is, again, a top-down way of looking at it. Yeah. But it was everything to do about gut feeling. Yeah. And that story just still resonates with me today. So, nice. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. What are some of the things that are exciting you right now in the market? Are you still excited about crypto or sounds like AI, space? Extremely. Yeah. Extremely. I am, this is the 3rd bear market that I've seen in crypto. Yeah. So I have to say the first 2 bear markets, I felt like I was one of the very few voices that was still around and saying crypto is going to be the future. Or at least, let me put it this way, blockchain technology will define a huge part of the future. This is the 3rd bear market for the last close to 2 years. And I think now we're just coming out of the bear market, honestly. But this bear market was very different because I had a large number of voices around me.
Yeah.
So more than ever, I'm extremely bullish on blockchain, to the point that we just had a $1.1 billion acquisition this morning for a blockchain company.
Yeah.
And I am speaking on at the RWA Summit tomorrow in New York, which is also the biggest real world asset conference in the world.
Nice.
So I'm very, very still confident about blockchain. That said, the world has changed meaningfully in the last few years. And AI definitely is a frontier that would significantly change different aspects of life tomorrow. And I don't just mean B2B softwares that would basically have like a SaaS subscription, no. It would also alter the way we perceive the internet or the way we perceive day-to-day life and how it will impact the way we think.
Yeah.
And AI has the potential to do that as well. So I'm still doing AI infra and middleware. Like my partner works in AI and has been in AI for over a decade, and our household conversations for the last several conversations have been AI is gonna win, blockchain is gonna win. Now for the last 2 years, I've conceded, AI might just be a bigger innovation within our lifetimes than blockchain. But that said, it's still very early for blockchain.
Yeah.
If there are 3 industries in my mind that could build the next $100 billion company from scratch today, blockchain is definitely one of them.
Yeah. Is there a yes and over there? Are there companies doing blockchain and crypto? Blockchain and AI sort of well?
Lots. Yeah. I mean, decentralized compute has been a theme that's been playing around for like a year and a half now.
Yeah.
And the idea is basically take distribution and put it on a network. So that basically gives you decentralized compute.
Yeah.
And the economics for that theoretically work out better.
Yeah.
The security and compliance for that theoretically works out better than standard compute. That said, again, very early stage because AI as a wave has come about only in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And these decentralized compute players have been around for less than 2 years mostly. And there are a couple that were around before that as well. But again, this is the right time to scale. Yeah. So this is when we see massive companies being built. There are so many different use cases as well, but I feel decentralized compute is one of the biggest ones that we've seen.
And then you obviously get to see a bunch of founders and you get to see who succeeds, who doesn't, So I'm curious, do you have any insights into founder psychology? I'm really into like inner work and that kind of thing. So I'm curious if there are, other than the fact that someone is working in AI or crypto, are there just like personality traits that you've noticed tend to separate the founders that make it?
That's a very good question. And I think this is like, I don't want to be belaboring by bringing up the same story.
So it's okay.
But the story that I mentioned that I can talk about is why I became a VC.
Yeah.
It's exactly to do with how I evaluate opportunities at pre-seed, which has everything to do with the founders.
Yeah.
So the story goes, and then I can explain the evaluation. The story is there was this tiny village in a remote part of China back in the 70s where a couple of universities in the US did a study where they evaluated the day-to-day activities of a tiny school that was being built out of that village. The school would take all their young students under the age of 12 to a neighborhood barn in the morning and ask them to pick up baby chicks and segregate them into male and female.
Yeah.
So the way to so baby chicks, for, all the viewers who don't know this, are completely identical in appearance.
Yeah.
And there is no way to identify whether they are male or female except for looking at the genitalia.
Okay.
So they would pick it up, they would look at the genitalia, segregate in male and female. The teachers would nod along and say, yes, it's correct, no, it's not correct, right? From a distance. 3 months of doing this, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids are able to pick up a baby chick, segregate into male or female with 99.2% accuracy without looking at the genitalia.
Yeah.
How does that happen, right? There's a scientific basis for gut feeling.
Yeah.
And these kind of studies prove it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest things for me was trading also, there's a huge amount of gut feeling involved.
Yeah.
All the algorithmic trading on one side, there is something to be said about pattern recognition that your brain can identify and project and predict.
Yeah.
And I felt that as an investor, I really want to inculcate that.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to do early stage investing, because I really enjoyed meeting founders who've not yet built, let's say somebody's really exceptionally smart from your network, who comes to you and says, hey, I want to build this. Someone who's like, I rate them extremely highly.
Yeah.
They say they want to build something. I'll be like, whatever you build, you'll figure it out, right? It's that quality and that conviction that I would want to get in a stranger who I don't know, who I don't rate highly. How do I get to that level of conviction in a stranger? Just using and leveraging my gut feeling.
Yeah.
So this is basically a study that I had read like 5-6 years ago. And I just kind of really related to that, I felt. And I think at pre-seed, the way I would sort of use that, keeping that in mind as like a North Star practice, I would spend time with founders and I would kind of look at like how much hustle they have actually done in their lives. Did they use their initiative, right? Did they, honestly, and not to quote Jensen Huang here, but did they suffer enough growing up? Because I feel somebody who's gone through adversity, and this is not to say someone who's been pampered their entire lives cannot build something, but I feel the probability of somebody who's gone through actual suffering growing up and faced real adversity, for them to hustle and build something big and be unabashed in the face of the lows that every single business sees, there's something to be said about them being outlier potential. So that's what I look for: outlier potential, agility, hustle, pace, unique insight, the people that they are close to. It all just, I feel one of the best things about our industry is smart people tend to stay together and come together. And that's because I think we just kind of attract each other. And that story about, the 5 people in your life, you're the average sum of 5 people in your life, it's actually really true in my opinion. Because we all kind of congregate together. I mean, look at us. We literally connected on Twitter, right? Like, I saw a couple of your tweets. We, connected. We were like, let's grab coffee in New York. And here we are. Right? So I think the smartest people will always find each other. And just the sheer effort that people make to actually make that happen speaks volumes about who they are. And that helps retain and attract talent. That helps sort of, get VC funding or any other funding. And that basically helps you be that visionary person who can see the world in a different light because you're supported by the smartest people with you.
Amazing. Yeah, there's 2 directions of my mind is like going. There's 2 things I really want to talk to you about that I think came up in this, in what you just said. One is being a woman. And because women, we have that woman's intuition about people. We have that really strong intuition, right? And then the second is sort of the benefits of not growing up wealthy.
Oh my God, yes. I'm so happy that I did not grow up wealthy. Like, honestly, no offense to anyone. I'm very happy that I was not born with a silver spoon. I actually had another reminder this weekend of how it can be difficult sometimes to deeply connect with people who grew up wealthy. It's something I don't want to believe. And actually because I do some life coaching, one of my clients is this very wealthy person who is struggling with the fact that, their kids, because this person's very self-made, like immigrant, like made something out of nothing. And now their kids grew up so different, and also like this person was like focused on their business, so now they have these adult kids. I can't really connect that way, and it's like I want to tell them that they can instill that drive in their kids. Make them struggle.
I don't know. That's the thing. Like, it's hard for parents to do.
It is. I can see that. Honestly, I think the way my parents look at it is they feel guilty that they couldn't give me everything that they wanted to. Now that I have everything that I want to, like, own or do, I am so happy that they did not give it to me. Because I will never take anything for granted. I am also someone who can very easily still fly economy or sleep on the floor of a train when I'm traveling across India. All of these things are like second nature to me, right? And I'm equally comfortable in first or business class. So I think it's just the lived experiences that I have, which are so worthwhile that I'm so glad that I had them. But speaking specifically about women, I feel that, it's actually not a feeling. It's like there's scientific basis for women being different from men, right? And we've had this conversation, similar to this conversation before, how the amygdala reacts to certain situations and how perceptive and intuitive and how we understand people and are, on average, as a gender, our EQs are higher. All of these, by the way, before anybody comes attacking us, there's scientific basis, there's enough data, and there's enough surveys that have been done. But
even
published.
If it's just our women's intuition,
it is. Women's intuition is a thing. Sixth sense is a thing. Like when we are walking alone at night, we can feel things, right? Which I've never heard a man say before, or I've never read any man saying that they can feel when they are about to be in danger. It's very rare, while most women I know would actually feel that. So I feel that there's very fundamental differences, and maybe that's what kind of, translates into my professional life as well. There are enough incidents, I won't name the company, but there was somebody in like a senior management of a company that had a very sort of tragic experience in their family. And that vertical was not performing well. And the founder and the board was completely stunned as to why the market is growing, the industry is growing, the competitors are doing well, they had the first mover advantage, why aren't they performing as well? And the person who was leading that, who had gone through that tragic incident, had not shared it with his colleagues, right? And he had just been suppressing it inside him. And it was massive. It was not a small thing at all. And it was very sudden, and he was blindsided. And 3 months of consistent poor performance, I literally just asked the founder, let me do a one-on-one with the guy. 10 minutes into that one-on-one, I saw pain in his eyes. I'm very surprised that nobody else in that all-male boardroom did not see it. And I was not even on the board. I was a very small seed investor. This is way before my current role as well. And I sort of was just invited by the founder to attend a couple of meetings, and I had time. So I thought that, okay, I'll learn a lot by attending those meetings. And then I looked up that guy on Instagram, and he had just done a post about the tragic incident about 2-3 months before that. And I asked the founder that, how much time did he take off? Because I assumed he would have taken off time. And he's like, why would he take off time? What happened? And
so it's a lack of EQ.
It's the heart is in the right place, but sometimes the capability to read people may not be there.
And we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. So it's not against the founder.
Absolutely. And the minute, he found that out, he did a phenomenal job of managing it. So there's something to be said about his EQ as well. But it's just that identification that you need to kind of understand people sometimes better than how they understand themselves. The fact that he didn't realize that he needed some time off. In my opinion, he did. And I'm so glad they did that. And then that person -1 was temporarily promoted, and the business ended up doing very well. The guy came back 3-4 months later and has been performing stellar since. So I think it's worthwhile to sometimes think a little bit on the human side, because until yet we don't have companies being run by robots. One day we might, honestly, but as of today, EQ, there's still a debate to be made about, an argument to be made about EQ being an extremely important thing.
I love that. Yeah, one of my favorite, and I talk about her a lot. Oh my God, I would love to have her on the pod one day. Female founders is Sarablakely.
Oh, I love her.
And she talks about, she talks about how when she was building Spanx, she would like talk to the universe, and she would just get really into her intuition around like, oh, what do women need? What do my customers need? It's not always about like spreadsheets and ROI and like calculators. All that has its place, but like a woman's intuition about what people need. Sarablakely used that. She didn't take any investment, and she built it to like $1 billion+.
And I feel that like if whatever I've heard her talk about, her intuition about identifying the problems is unparalleled.
Yeah.
Like you would never hear a founder like going that deep and trying to kind of figure out, okay, what exactly is missing, right? She's just absolutely exceptional. I feel that I've heard that from a large number of female founders. I think that's like our superpower as female investors, founders, executors, operators, engineers. But I think at the same time, our weakness, which I've seen blanket across all the exceptional women I know in tech, is we really underestimate ourselves.
Okay.
90% of us are living with imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And maybe 90 is also a small number. Maybe that number is 99 or maybe
I mean, show me a woman who isn't living with imposter syndrome.
Right? Like maybe I've met one in my life. But 99% are living with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it I think translates into the impact we can create. So one of the sessions I did in London actually a few months ago is one where I took out, so in our internal CRM, we have identified who's a founder. So I pulled out the last 50 female founders that we had seen, and I looked at the market size that they had mentioned in their deck. And then just orally, I didn't spend too much time on this, but just orally you look at any other pitch deck in the same vertical or same industry and look at the market size for that. On average, colloquially, this has just been my experience as an investor across maybe 50, 100, 200 pitch decks that I've seen from women, or maybe even more than that, is we tend to keep about 10 to 20% of the market size in our decks than our male counterparts.
Okay.
Why is that the case, right? Why can't we also be those visionary, selling you on the vision, building a story and a narrative around it kind of people? Why do we always feel till our problem identification is validated, we don't have the confidence to predict the future? And I think it's a quintessential female founder thing. I think there were about three female founders in the last year, maybe 4, that I actually pointed this out to. Where I said, look at your market size and let me sort of, show you another deck and look at the market size there and it's similar products. Like, why is there such a difference?
I love that.
So it's I think, by design, society, and there's like 2,000 years of patriarchy we can talk about.
So much to
I know, right? But by design, the world and the society is built for men and by men. And it's high time we recognize that. There's something to be said about male privilege. I don't really care about that, honestly, because I feel somebody who wants to identify their privilege, they will, has nothing to do with male privilege. And someone who doesn't want to identify, they won't even acknowledge it. But we have to kind of take the world as it is and then try to find a place for ourselves in an authentic yet compliant way. And I think the compliant way we tend to shy away from, because we feel that there's not enough validation in the world for us for that.
And plus we have to focus on what's in our control, right? If there is male privilege, I mean, what good does it do me to sit and cry about it?
Exactly. I mean, we can talk all day about it, we can cry about it, but hey, the world was very different 50 years ago. So every time I see, like human rights violations against women, I've traveled so much and I've seen that happening in person in front of me, or certain, philosophies that are regressive, or certain male board members, or sort of the lack of respect that a female investor would get in those rooms, stuff like that. It's humbling to remind myself that 50 years ago, we didn't have the right to vote. Right? So, and we didn't have the right to own a car or drive a car or whatever. So we've come a long way, but we have even a longer way to go. And I feel that as women, we should ensure that we are on the right side of history by ensuring that we can create a platform and with enough substance that we can help women 50 years from today say, okay, in 2024, a bunch of women came together and did something meaningful. Like, who's going to be the next Rosa Parks? I don't know. Especially for women.
My sense is that a lot of the conversation we're having right now is actually really groundbreaking because it acknowledges, and I'm just going to go into my personal, when I was, a young woman in tech, a lot of the narrative around women in tech, I think that's what we needed at the time. So I'm not shaming anyone, I'm not criticizing anyone, but it rejected gender differences. And I think that it actually created this almost sense of shame in me because we're all trying to skirt around the fact that men and women are different. And suddenly I'm supposed to dress like a guy, I'm supposed to talk like a guy. I got told in one of the male-dominated workspaces I was in when I was like talking about something, they were like, don't use words like I feel.
Yeah.
This was another female, she was trying to be good. She was trying to mentor me. But it's like I felt like I was constantly being erased for my feminine side to a point where I was like, I'm not going to do this. Because I have to be able to be myself.
Exactly.
And so
very common.
My sense is that like that next wave of feminism is us being able to have all the rights that we have, fought really hard for, to like make our own money, work on what we want, vote, have our own apartments, whatever. But also to be able to like lean into our natural, nature, essentially.
I completely agree. I think there are like two levels here.
Yeah.
One is a human level right, which is right to vote, right to drive a car, right to make our own decisions about our own bodies, etc. Sitting on American land saying that is a little funny to me.
Yeah, right before the election.
Exactly. And that's like the human layer, right? And then there's a second layer where we have to acknowledge the differences between men and women.
Yeah.
And what we are saying is at a fundamental human level, as well as cerebral opportunity, which is identical. I mean, there's enough neuroscientific data that shows us cerebral opportunities can be dealt with identically across men and women. What we are talking about is certain other parts of the brain, how the amygdala is different. So that is the difference that we need to allow between men and women, and that is the second layer. And I feel that a lot of the people are conflating the two.
Yeah.
And it's basic like men versus women, everything needs to be the same. You dress the same, you operate the same, you talk the same, you perform the same actions. The reality is the minute you do that, society goes for a downfall.
Yeah.
Because
and
there's
nobody
a reason
can be
why
themselves.
We have two genders.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not trying to design a society in which people are not able to be themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. So how do you build an environment where there is equal cerebral opportunity and equal rights given to every single Homo sapien? I mean, not even use the word human, but Homo sapien alive on the planet today. But at the same time, you let them be authentically themselves, irrespective of, there's no binary gender, right? Like, irrespective of whatever gender they conform to. Any sexual preference they could have, it doesn't matter, because that is how they actually become different. And that is why we need diverse workplaces. But in my opinion, DEI is extremely incorrectly done in general. And in practice, it's just not the right way of building diverse rooms. And that's again, story for another time. I do believe in meritocracy all the way, but meritocracy while keeping in mind that men and women are different. And you do need a different voice every now and then in any sort of professional workspace. So yeah, it's meritocracy with accepting the two layers. I think that's the way I think of recruitment. That's the way I think of life.
I love how you put it. Yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean, since it's our podcast, we talk about whatever. What are your thoughts on the election? Like, I know a lot of people are really... in our circles probably are like confused because like they like we all want the crypto bull run.
Honestly,
do you actually think Donald Trump is good for crypto? Even is that?
Yeah, I actually don't know because I've never been born in this country. I've never even lived in the US. But I think as a third party who has nothing to lose, I am very clearly supporting Kamala Harris, and I'm not just doing that because she's brown and a woman. I have supported Democrats since I grew up. I think just the philosophies and their policies and their vision aligns with the way I see the world. But at the same time, I know that Trump is a massive storyteller. Yeah. And he's the definition of a visionary. And
he's an entertainer. I mean, the man can entertain. Exactly. He can get on. I mean, he's funny.
Exactly. That's what. Funny sells. People don't understand how much funny sells.
Yeah, it's just...
If you're funny, I've seen this across companies. If you're funny and you're mediocre at your job, you'll become a manager in no time. Yeah. And you'll always be retained as good quality talent in a company because you bring people together, right? Funny really sells. Like being funny is a very underestimated and underrated quality. Yeah. And I think that Trump is all of that. Yeah. There are certain things that, funnily enough, I do agree with Trump on, where, you know, the for example, the meritocratic immigration is one of them. Yeah. But at the same time, there are lots of things I disagree.
Of course, yeah.
With the conservative side in general, Roe v. Wade being one of them. So I feel that I'm not sure who's going to win. I'm hoping Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
But I think Trump being elected would probably be good for crypto.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that Kamala being elected would not be.
Okay.
Right? Like, and fun, I just noticed what I did. I called it Trump and Kamala. See, this is like the inherent sexism that we actually practice.
Yeah.
So it should be Donald or Kamala, or it should be Trump and Harris.
Yeah.
So yeah, Trump would be good for crypto, my imagination tell me, but so would Harris.
Okay.
The Fit 21, which was a recent sort of policy that went into action, was also a really good step in the right direction. It was fairly underrated, did not really get a lot of coverage, but one of the biggest things they had was like defining committees for stable coins, etc., which again, I think that's the way to actually adopt crypto at a massive scale. And that's how blockchain would actually, exceed expectations for everyone around us. Trump, I think, has gotten a lot out of crypto already. He has received a huge amount of funding, a lot of public support from crypto native OGs and industry KOLs, key opinion leaders.
Yep.
I think all of that aside, I don't think he's also very happy with the fact that his own token didn't do well.
Mm-hmm.
He has not raised the amount of funding that he wanted to from the industry for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he could go either way. And he is, like I said, the one thing he's like a visionary outlier founder, right? Like if I met him when he was broke and he was young and he had like a vision for the world, he would be the definition of an outlier, and I would invest in someone like Donald Trump because I know he's going to go and build something really big. But the thing with outliers is also that they are very diabolical, and they can also be a little bipolar, where they can say one thing and do completely the opposite of that. And I think that Trump is that person. While I think I'm the kind of person who wants reliability from a political leader, I'm not looking for a founder. I'm not investing in them with my money. And I don't need that volatility. I want them to be a stable, leader who can actually help the country define a new era. Yeah. And I need that, solid foundation of ethics and value systems. And I see all of that in Harris. Yeah. Which is why I think I would definitely, if I was an American citizen, I would vote Kamala Harris. And this is coming from somebody whose country has been run by Narendra Modi for almost a decade now, maybe more than that. And for all the flaws that Modi has, and there are many, I would still like to believe he's been an incredible leader for the country. And the way he's united the country without going to extreme, I am extremely supportive of that kind of politics. And I worked with the Prime Minister's office when Modi was in power, after Citi. So that was like first-hand experience of how he thinks and how his closest leaders are thinking about the next generation for India. And to me, that's inspiring. And I feel that I don't get inspired by Donald Trump. And that's something that I would take into account if I would vote. All of this aside, I'm not an American citizen. I don't have the right to vote. So
it sounds like you're calling a crypto bull run no matter who wins.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think my perspective is crypto is making a comeback. I think we have had a bear market long enough. What history tells us, the volatility in crypto industry has always been a little unpredictable. It's not like, rates cut and equity gets a boom, etc. Like it's not the standard 5-6 year cycle of equity bull and bear runs. Or even like ZERP, for example. With crypto, it's always been anywhere between 12 months to 30 months is the average bear cycle. And for one reason, it would come up. And honestly, that one reason from today could just be the acquisition of Bridge, right? That could also result in a huge amount of institutional interest, which would result in a huge amount of Bitcoin buying. Yeah. And if that happens, great. MicroStrategy played it right? Like they have bought so much Bitcoin in the last couple of years. A bunch of crypto mining companies, funnily enough, are sort of changing their website. I won't mention which one. I just noticed it. I just noticed one of the biggest Bitcoin mining companies a month apart. I checked their website about 1.5 months ago. It said one of the largest Bitcoin mining companies in the world. Now it says one of the largest Bitcoin companies in the world. They removed the word mining because now I think they're going to plan on acquiring Bitcoin from the market. And the minute a company like that does it, the world goes, oh my God, there's not enough Bitcoin left to mine. It's better and cheaper and easier to acquire existing Bitcoin. Price shots up. Okay. So I think Bitcoin is 51% of all token holders' portfolio today. Yeah. It's a very good proxy for whether or not a bull or a bear cycle is coming about. And I feel that, in the next 6 months, we will see a really good sort of pump in Bitcoin pricing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I mean, it's already happening. Bitcoin is what, 63K? 64?
No, 69, I think.
69K. Nice.
Yes. Yeah.
That's where we are.
I think even a company like Stripe acquiring Bridge, right?
Yeah.
They're obviously like typically like TradFi, really risk averse.
Yeah.
So them making a big step like this into crypto.
Yeah. And I think it was inevitable because I think a large number of us insiders, we knew that payment networks will have their moment of time in the future. Yeah. And we knew that there's going to be a tussle between legacy payment networks, I'm not going to name them, but versus like the new age payment networks that companies like Bridge are able to power. And then all the picks and shovels that go around it. And I feel that Stripe is being extremely future looking when they're doing this. They are not saying that they're not going to work with the legacy providers. They are just saying we have a foot in the future as well. Yeah. And if we want to, we can. Yeah. And I feel that the minute there's enough adoption that's happening about in the latter, Stripe is just going to put their entire force behind it. And Stripe Crypto, I mean, the team is just absolutely exceptional. And they have been in the industry, I think, as long as all of us, maybe longer. So they kind of timed it correctly as well, because there's a lot of stablecoin adoption that's going to happen in the next 24 months. And with that, Stripe will be very well positioned to work with every single business on the planet, and not just, you know, sort of traditional finance businesses that, hey, if you have this kind of an account, if you have this kind of a network, we can work with you. Yeah. The number of checks and balances they have on potential customers are going to eradicate because of something like this. So to me, it's a very good expansion strategy. And I read somewhere today that it's basically very similar to the Meta acquisition of Instagram. And it will go down in history as one of the best acquisitions in fintech that have happened ever. And I could not agree more. Like, I'm someone, and I can show you my LinkedIn messages, and all the founding engineers would agree about. For the last 2 years, I was trying to buy Bridge Secondary. Yeah. And I couldn't. I failed at my miserable attempt to buying Bridge Secondary. But I knew that this company would be massive one day.
Yeah. Nice. Amazing. So we connected, I think, remind me, I was getting a lot of hate on Twitter, and then you reached out and you were like, you know, just like giving me support. And then you were telling me recently that you also got a lot of hate.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about internet hate.
Oh, how much time do we have?
I don't know.
No, I felt very bad, honestly, the amount of hate that you were getting. And I have this thing in me. I always reach out to people who are being bullied online. And I use the word bully because it is actually being bullied. Yeah. And I think in my mind now it's paying it forward. Yeah. Because when I was heavily bullied, there's this company called Sugar Cosmetics. Okay. I'm going to embarrass the founder. I'm sorry. Yeah, because I rate him very highly. So the founder of Sugar Cosmetics reached out to me when I was getting a lot of hate. It's so there's an Indian version of Shark Tank. Yeah. His wife, so him and his wife are co-founders of Sugar. Yeah. His wife is on Indian Shark Tank. And they are one of the biggest consumer tech companies out of India. I'm not sure how big they are now, actually, but one of the largest. And he and I did not know each other at all. Yeah. He just basically reached out to me the minute he saw the amount of hate I was getting. And that was like a pivotal point in my life, because I was like, I'm just going to delete my entire online presence. Yeah. I don't need this hate. I'm just going to live carefree. I don't care about the purpose that I've found in life, sharing that with other people, trying to inspire other people, trying to help them sort of, you know, make the best out of themselves. I'm not going to do any of that. Yeah. I'm just going to stick to working for a living, doing what I like, etc. And that one conversation, to me, to this day, it was years ago. I think it was like 4 years ago, maybe 5. Yeah. And that one conversation still sticks with me today, because he reached out to me. He helped me realize that his wife was horribly bullied as well. Oh. Right? And he was a co-founder, but he was a guy. So he did not get the amount of hate she did. She was also the face of the company. So automatically, being a woman, married to the co-founder, being one of the very first female founders that became successful out of India.
Yeah.
The amount of hate she got was insane. And then being on Indian Shark Tank, which made her extremely famous and popular, would also attract more bullies.
Yeah.
So all of this happened, and then there was like a total breakdown moment, and then I eventually sort of just got over it. It took me like a month, I think. And since then, I've just not responded to the hate. I've never gone underground like that. I've never even felt that anyone's got under my skin. I think just the amount of skin that you develop is so thick that nobody can penetrate through that. You need a drilling machine, maybe more than that, to actually penetrate through that. So.
Yeah. And we don't have to go into the deets, but like, what do you think people were hating on you for? Because I didn't actually see it, and I'm meeting you. I'm like, what could possibly be the issue?
The tweets are still live. So it's funny. One of the initial ones was when there was a joke about, so everyone was filing their taxes. And I said, it's funny that my tax this year is higher than the first salary I got.
Oh, yeah. So of course, the
tax that I paid. So the amount of hate, insane. Then another one was my family, after like 25, 30 years of saving, finally bought a proper house in Gurgaon. Thank you. This was 3 years ago.
Amazing.
And in Gurgaon, which is a city right next to Delhi. And we had spent 6 years looking for a house. 6 years is a long time to find a house, because there was nobody, no builder, no seller that was willing to sell a newly built like house for all white money. You needed minimum 50% black money to buy a house in Gurgaon. So that was very annoying, because my family, who only had white money, had to find ways to convert the white money into black so that we can buy a house. And we had to pay to do that. That conversion, like people who have black money, they would charge you if you want to convert white money to black money, which is ironic because generally it's the other way around. Yeah. So I tweeted the frustration around that we just bought a house, but it's so annoying that you cannot buy a house in Delhi NCR, the National Capital Region, with all white money. A lot of people got so hateful when they realized the amount that I had, because I'd mentioned the amount as well. The amount of money that I had, that my family had saved over 20, 30 years and invested into buying that house, that they tagged the Indian Revenue Service. And then the Indian Revenue Service also blindly just sent us a notice. Yeah. And my parents who've received silver certificates, like there's a gold certificate for being like a compliant tax-paying resident of India, like you've never had a single issue. Then there's a silver that you have paid less amount of tax, but you've also been completely compliant. You've never even skimmed out on 1 rupee of taxes. They received, both of them had received this silver certificate. They received a notice from the Indian Revenue Service saying that your taxes are not okay, simply because we had to convert our white to black. And then, so my parents like worked with a bunch of accountants and responded, and everything was fine, obviously, because we are completely compliant. But the issue still remains. Like the minute you tweet something about money or something about your gender, the amount of hate that you get is insane. They were like, there was another one where there was a Reddit thread, like an entire thread that was made about hating me. And they were like, I think 1,100, 1,200 comments on it or something. Yeah. And a friend sent it to me and he's like, have you seen this? I'm like, no. Do I want to? He's like, maybe. And then I saw it and it was horrifying. Yeah. So that was about where I said my first semester of undergrad of uni, I couldn't speak fluent English. Like
that's amazing.
Yeah, but the first time, honestly, I think the first time I was able to speak fluent English, I was probably at Citi.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Because I was in sales initially, and then my day-to-day job was speaking to clients in English. So you got really into the practice of it. But till that point, I wasn't. And anybody who's from, my undergrad LSR can vouch for that I basically embarrassed the shit out of myself. Okay. My first semester, I got in front of like 100 kids from my batch and tried to make a speech and failed miserably and started talking in Hindi halfway through because I just could not speak in English.
Yeah.
And I'd written that, and then they went very deep into my LinkedIn profile and said that somebody who's done this and this and this and in high school, of course, speaks English and everything. I'm like, there's a difference between speaking in English with confidence versus understanding the grammatical errors that can be made in English theoretically. So there's a very big difference.
Who cares? You're getting your point across.
Exactly.
This is not an English test. It turns out life is not an English test.
Life is not an English test. So yeah, I think I was heavily bullied for that, hey, you're lying that you couldn't speak in English because we have evidence. I'm like, speak to anyone from my batch at LSR. That embarrassing moment has gone down in history as one of my top 3 most embarrassing moments. So I know for a fact that I could not speak in English fluently. So yeah, I think those are the kind of things that I've been heavily bullied for. I've gotten rape threats in my DMs.
Oh my God.
Very often. One of my previous roles, EAs, was one of the jobs was looking after all the DMs of my social medias, ensuring that I don't miss a single founder and no conversation falls through the cracks. And literally the message that I got from them was, Ash, I cannot do this anymore because it's taking a toll on my mental health. So those are the extremes that I have received DMs for. So anybody, the minute I see someone who's getting hated online for absolute no reason, my heart goes out to them. So I reach out to them.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm so glad you reached out and we're friends now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're comfortable name dropping this, but what I loved about the story about the Reddit thread was that you actually have influence such over things like
I try to not name drop.
Okay,
but so
you have friends in high places.
Yeah, now, yes. Hopefully in the future as well. But no, Alexis Ohanian's fund is 776. They were one of the investors in Polygon. We were working very closely with them. So I reached out and I'm like, bro, I'm getting hated. So that thread since then has been deleted because it was actually tagged by the moderator of that channel as hate.
Yeah.
And one of their rules of that channel by the mod is that you cannot actually espouse hate for somebody without any evidence.
Yeah.
And they did not have any evidence. Just a screenshot of a LinkedIn is not enough evidence. So yeah, the thread got deleted within I think 36 hours or something. But by then it had gone totally viral. It was literally one of those trending threads.
Oh my God.
So I was like, okay. So this happened after the first time. I got hate, so I had very thick skin. This was not at all, cumbersome for me.
Yeah.
I was actually upvoting a few of the comments as well. I was literally that person. Yeah. And my Reddit is not anonymous. It actually has my name. So people might have been surprised that I'm actually upvoting their comments. Some of them are very funny. And like I said, funny self.
They can be funny. Yeah.
They can be really funny. Yeah. So I'm someone who's very sort of excited when I see someone who's being funny. I'm just like, yeah, that's funny, dude. Even if it's a joke on me, that's funny. Yeah. So I was upvoting them. But it was one of the trending threads of the day.
Amazing. So I think you mentioned briefly, and we've talked about this before as well, we're overcoming thousands of years of patriarchy, and a lot of that lives in our head, right? Yeah. And it comes down to we don't really control what's outside. We don't control the system. We don't control, but we do control what's inside our minds. What are some of the things, if you could speak to young women right now and help them understand how did you get so confident in where you are? And what could someone who's younger learn from that?
Fail as much as you can.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah.
People like to think, oh, she is a crypto trader. She has done this many angel investments. She is a venture capitalist. She's the youngest. They look at all my wins. Yeah. I can name about 20 failures right now. Things that I have pulled my hair out on, where I've sat in the corner of my room and cried my eyes out, where I've gone through, so my personal background is I've gone through a large number of mental health issues for almost a decade at this point. And I joke around with my therapist now that half of your Mercedes is mine. So the Merc that he just bought recently. So yeah,
that's a flex.
Yeah, no,
it is
therapist honestly, but it's been a decade, and she's expensive. Yeah. So I mean, she's
clearly whatever she's made a lot of money from me.
Yeah. But jokes aside, I think for me, mental health has been a very, very big challenge. Okay. That combined with a series of failures that I had during this period of my life, both personally and professionally, set me to a point that nothing brings me down anymore.
Okay.
It's if I go on a stage and I embarrass myself, it still would not come close to being as bad as it was when I was clinically depressed.
Yeah.
Nothing comes close.
Yeah.
So failing doesn't matter. Embarrassing myself doesn't matter. it nothing really sort of, brings me down anymore. So fail as much as you can, hurt as much as you can, cry as much as you can. Like it's funny, like you see videos on TikTok of people crying and like sort of talking about different things. I'm like, yeah, if you're really crying, if you're really sad, you don't make videos out of it.
Yeah, you're just in the corner. You're not able to get out of bed.
You're on the ground and you're crying your eyes out. Yeah. You pass out, and for 12 hours you can't move because your body is not able to move. Your chest physically hurts. Those are the kind of feelings that I've had so often in my life, and I'm very happy. One of the things, you're an engineer, I can tell you this, you'll be very proud of this. I tried very hard to learn how to code.
Okay.
Like very hard. So I did economics and math. I did not have computer science as an elective. In my high school also, I did do computer science grades, I think class 6th to about 10th. After 10th, they did not allow me to take computer science because I had taken economics. So it was one of the two that I was allowed to take. And I really fought the school. I was like, yeah, I can do it. I'm smart. I'll manage another subject. But they did not let me. So yeah, I tried very hard to learn coding when I was at undergrad. Failed. Tried 2 years later again after Citi. So during Citi, when we were doing trading on the side as well, and after Citi, when we were running the trading firm as well, one of the things that we were doing was LSTM strategies, like long short-term memory. So there you have to basically build algorithms, right? So I had a couple of friends that we were doing this with, and they were building the algorithms. But for me, it was, why can't I do this?
Yeah.
So I tried again. I spent like 6-8 months, bought every single course, practiced every single day. To this day, I can't code. I can do a little bit. I can maybe read some code, but anything complicated, anything beyond like 300 lines of code, I start getting confused as to like how this would work because it gets too deep for me.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things I've never been able to do. So it's been a decade now. Maybe more than a decade, maybe 15 years that I've been trying to learn how to code, and I haven't. So there were times when basic logics of writing code, I was not able to understand, and I would be crying in the corner, sitting on the ground, just feeling like a failure. And then the moment when you give up, that is the moment you feel like you're a failure.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone who says don't give up, I say give up.
Yeah.
Try too many things.
Because there was something better for you. Exactly. Otherwise, you would have been a software engineer.
Yeah. Maybe I might be a founder. Yeah. You never know. Yeah. Maybe I might be one of the biggest founders the world has ever seen. You don't know. But the thing is, where I am, I'm happy. And the dream to actually learn how to code is still not dead.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how
weekends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there are still times that I want to continue practicing and doing it. Maybe one day I will succeed, but till now I haven't. So that's one of maybe 20 things I've miserably failed at. Yeah. I'm very tall. You've seen me stand. Matt has seen me stand. I'm very tall. And when I was a teenager, I tried modeling.
Oh.
And I failed miserably at it. I love smiling.
Yeah.
It's a thing with me. And models are not allowed to smile.
They're supposed to be bitchy.
Exactly. I could not help but smile. Whenever. So that was a miserable failure because everyone around me was like, you're tall. You can do this. But no, I can't. I can't be a model. I'm too smiley for that. And oh my God, the lack of eating, like look at me now. I love food. I live for food. So I think there are lots of things that I've tried and failed at. Yeah. The lesson for me has always been try as many things as you can.
Okay.
Fail as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And don't let someone tell you can't do something.
Okay.
I think these were the 3 messages I would give my 15-year-old self. And I'm glad that I did not have these messages, but I did them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost feels like you had some like strength of spirit.
Something inside me. I don't know. I think it was definitely something I was born with, I can tell you that. Because I was 5 years old when I changed my name.
From what to what?
So my full name is Ashima. Mm-hmm. It spells AASHIMA. And I was born, if you look at my birth certificate, if you look at the first 5 years of report cards from my schools, it says ASHIMA, so single A. Mm-hmm. And I changed my name at the age of 5 or 6 to AA because I wanted to be roll number 1.
Oh.
Because I was like, I don't like it. There are 3 people ahead of me. Why am I not number 1?
Yeah.
So it's something in me. I don't know. I never think that I built it. I would not take credit. Maybe my parents built it when I was younger. It's all props to them. But there's something in me where I don't like losing. I now love failing because that tells me that there's something better for me. But I like being number one.
Amazing. Well, yeah. Sounds like that's gotten you really far in life.
Yeah, I don't know. I think lots more to do. We are just getting started. Yeah. I'm still 28, so there's a lot more to do.
Yeah. Well, you've already been in Forbes as someone who came from a slum.
It's very funny. I was on my 27th birthday. I got extremely drunk. Don't tell my mom. And I was tipsy, and I basically wrote like a tweet, which I thankfully did not tweet because maybe there was no network or whatever. I don't know what happened. It got saved in my drafts, and the tweet was, "Forbes, you have 3 years left to put me on your list.
Yeah.
Because one way or the other, I'm going to be number one. Yeah. And you not putting me on your list will basically make you number two." I wrote that tweet. It never went through. I realized it like months later. And then this year, my friends who I told the story to, they were like, "Ash, you should tweet this on my birthday." And I'm so glad I did not, because they would not be putting on me on that list if I tweeted that. But yeah, I think it was one of those things like growing up, people aspire for like, I don't know, Ivy League institutions or certain companies they want to work for. For me, being on the Forbes 30 and 30 list was like a very big deal.
Yeah. Well, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And I think since I was like maybe 14 or 15, so we used to get the Forbes magazine was there at the front and center of our school library. And I had gone through this one point where my middle school library didn't have a single book that I had not read. So I used to wait every week for new books to come in.
Yeah.
And the librarian would give me a heads up. So during the library period, I had to still spend an hour in the library, but there were no books for me to read. So I would read the Forbes magazine every single week.
Oh my God.
For like months or maybe even years. So it became a very big deal for me to be a part of that institution. And Forbes 30 or 30 was like the most achievable thing that I could see in my teens and 20s. And I'm so glad that I did that. Now there's a laundry list of other milestones that I have in mind over the next 40 years. But yeah, one thing at a time.
Amazing. Well, speaking of a laundry list of milestones,
this
is a magic crystal ball.
Oh.
And you can hold it, make a wish, and you get whatever you ask for.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that.
And you don't have to tell us. You can choose to tell us if you like, but...
Okay, so do I say something or do I just wish it and it'll happen?
You can wish it and it'll happen. If you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear.
Okay. Okay, done.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
What's so special about this ball though?
You'll find out.
Is there a company making these? How do you sell them?
Once the podcast is big enough, I guess that's one of our merch.
Yeah, you should.
Right now, this is it means a lot to me. That's all I'll put it. There's just one ball, and it does have a way of...
Is it something very specific or like scarce? Is it like, I don't know?
Well, this is the magic crystal
Zirca
ball.
Or what? Sorry?
This is the magic crystal ball.
I love it. You should. Sorry, my business brain will never stop, but you should sell this.
Yeah. But yeah, would you like to share?
Right. Yeah, so I asked for 3 things.
Yeah.
I'm very greedy.
Please.
I can share one of them.
Yeah.
And that is that I want to basically be on the right side of history.
Yes.
And the purpose that I've defined for myself, I want to live it within the next 15 years.
I love it.
Yeah,
what would you say your purpose is?
My purpose is backing the best founders, the best visionaries of our times that are helping build a better world for tomorrow.
Yes.
Not just in a 5 to 10% better, but 200 years later, people would remember them.
Yes.
That level better. So like, for example, to me, Google is one of those companies. When I was working with the Prime Minister's office, we were working with like this nonprofit where we... spend a lot of time looking at different nonprofit funding and initiatives and everything else that they have achieved. One of the biggest click moments for me was another organization that was doing education. They had raised a huge amount of funding over the last 20 years for India and Africa and done a certain amount of, made a certain amount of impact. One of the biggest things for me was that Google had done more for education in India and Africa than all the nonprofits in education combined. Yeah. No offense to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but that's the reality. So I feel that tech has that power to do that. And people really underestimate for someone like me, having access to Google in my school lab was a huge needle mover in where I am today.
Yeah.
And a lot of it that I've learned is from the internet. Going to, people don't understand, but like having 20 rupees INR, giving it to the cyber cafe owner and going there and using internet for 2 hours where it takes forever to load a single page. And all of this I did in my teenage years. And, you know, people my age in the US in their teenage years had fast moving broadband in their homes. I didn't have any of that. I would get 20 rupees a week where I would actually save from my pocket money, which I was given for food. So I would not eat during certain meals, just so that I can, you know, bring together those 20 rupees so that I can go to the cyber cafe and use internet. So those are the kind of things that have made me who I am today. And I know that tech has the power to do that tomorrow as well. So 200 years from today, Google will definitely be remembered by everyone on this planet. But what else? What are the companies? So that's what I'm looking for. That's my purpose.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.